Good morning. It's another cold day in the one light bulb situation. I'm going to do something here. Looks like the same thing I do every Wednesday, doesn't it? But it's not. And I'm going to talk about that because I think it's pretty interesting. It's based off of a verse in Romans chapter 12. Seemed like the same old thing, right? But today, I'm lifting in kilograms. Looks just like pounds, doesn't it? Well, we happen to somehow in this little garage home gym situation have a set of kilogram plates, and it got me thinking. Because there's been there's like snowball thoughts where it started off. We're talking about language and youth group last week. Like some of the words people say. Is it okay to use these words? And then I heard a really good podcast this morning driving over here, a little devotional thing from James talking about some things about your words. And I thought, this whole concept of trying to fit in, it's like always asking this question, can Christians do this? Can Christians do that? It's like, well, why are you asking? Because most of the time you're asking that question because you want to fit in and be cool with people that aren't Christians. So whatever the question is, you kind of figure it out for yourself, right? If you had to ask, the answer is probably no. So I was thinking, why do we do this? It's our thinking. Our thinking about this whole thing is wrong. Just like our thinking about a lot of things we do at church is wrong. And instead of being, scriptural, we're trying to be trendy. So, I did kind of what it looks like I normally do, right? A couple of big plates, a smaller plate. So, Romans 12 says, don't be conformed to this world. So there's kind of the answer to the question, can a Christian do this? Can a Christian do that? Probably not. Might be a good telltale sign right there. But what it really gets at is be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Change your thinking. So I don't know how to think in kilograms because I'm American. If I was European, I would think in kilograms. So there's a lot of things about changing your way of thinking. I'm lifting in kilograms today. I'm trying to think in kilograms, which is hard. It's like a different language almost, even though it's the same thing I'm doing every week. So in kilograms, one thing that we don't like about kilograms is the fact that when I go over here to write this down, what that set I just did, that was 100 kilograms. If I tell you how much I did in pounds, you'd be a lot more impressed. Because we think in pounds. So when you're talking about I was at the gym, I bench pressed 100 today. I mean, I know 10-year-olds that can bench press 100, But, my daughter can probably bench press 100. That's not impressive to an American. But in pounds, 100 kilograms ends up being like 220 something. So that's decent. Maybe not impress a lot of people, but it's decent. It's respectable. So then if I put a 5 on there, well, 5 more kilograms would be about 11 more pounds. So when I'm writing down that I'm doing 110 kilograms, because I put a 5 on each side, 110 kilograms, but that puts me in pounds closer to what I did before. But the point of this isn't, it's an interesting metaphor to change your way of thinking. You're doing the same stuff you've probably done your whole life. If you're a Christian, you still have to go to work or school. You're going to buy a house. You drive a car, whatever it might be. But you think about it differently. You look at it differently. You are going to act probably a little bit differently, I would think. So that's where the metaphor breaks down. I'm acting the exact same way because I have to get in there the right way. The feet, the butt, the shoulders, the hands, all that stuff. The angle, trajectory of your elbows, all that stuff. Grip, twist, the bar, all those things. So that part, is where the metaphor kind of starts to break down a little bit. But the idea that, I'm thinking in kilograms because I got to think about, the weight jumps as I move up, because I got to think, am I going to stay here? Is this enough weight? And you got to think about that. It's like, wait a second, what do I normally do? And you got to do the crossover math in your head. And that's kind of where, until you're used to thinking in kilograms, what you're going to have to do. So maybe that's sort of the friction here between, the world's way of doing things and God's way of doing things. So let me do a set, see how it feels, see if kilograms feel different. Actually, they can with different types of plates, but that has more to do with the plates than the pounds or the kilograms. But that's a whole nother discussion. Has nothing to do with this. All right, so we'll wrap it up in a second. Feels pretty good, right? So maybe that's part of the wrap up is, day in and day out, going to work, driving your car, going to school, whatever it is you're doing. It's just a different mindset, different thought process. The activity was the same, but what's on the bar, I'm thinking about kilograms, way different thought than pounds. It takes some getting used to. Maybe that's part of the problem too. So here's a couple things to wrap up with. The difference in pounds and kilograms, okay? The world's way of doing things, God's way of doing things. And what happens is, when you look at the number on the paper, it might seem less impressive to an American that, I only did what I say. I got to think. What is it, 110 kilograms, I think? I think that's what this is. Yeah, 110 kilograms. And so that's way less impressive than the number in pounds, even though I'm moving the same weight. It's the same weight. It's just, how do you describe it, define it? So that's what the world does. It's like they try to make you feel, like you're less than them because you don't, whatever. I think it was Peter says it in one way. He used the phrase, you don't run with them to the same excess of riot in the King James. Great line right there. And they talk bad about you, right? So, of course they do. It's what they're built on. You've been on social media lately? So, the other part of the wrap up is, got to breathe first, catch my breath. So we're wrapping up with this concept, transform by the renewing your mind. What you're doing is going to make a difference. You don't have to, because that was part of the discussion with the words thing was, well, they're used to, talking a certain way. Maybe you need to talk that way to relate or get their attention. That's like a weird catch-all argument for a lot of things. It's like an excuse to do bad things for Christians. Well, I need to relate to people. Well, we're supposed to be a light to people. I don't think the Bible too much talks about relating to people, although Paul does say, I'm all things to all people that I might win some, but his goal was to be a light, not to be darkness with darkness and somehow relate to it. He was going to be light, and he was going to do whatever he had to do, including working a regular menial job for a year and a half in Corinth, making tents to plant a church. Pastors, take note. The church doesn't always owe you a living. They might not be able to afford it. So, anyhow, that's it, Change how you think. Don't worry. The world will notice. You don't have to be weird or use bad language or do bad things. The point that they already notice and talk bad about you or about Christians in general means they already see that there's a difference. So don't fall into these, trendy traps. That's a cool word, cool phrase. Trendy traps that Christians try to come up with as excuses for you to do bad things. Just do what the Bible says. Instead of falling into a trendy trap, be transformed. Think different. And if people don't like it, who cares? We're here to glorify God, not impress people, man. So go out and have a good day if you want to.